Okay, so usability. I'm going to run through usability a little faster than the other things, but if you have questions, just jot them down. I'll get to them a little later. Number one thing with usability, and especially working in the New York Times, I've learned, is that people are going to get, if they don't understand how to use, if it doesn't almost jump out and hit them in the face on how to use your interactive, they will not use it the way you want it to. They will maybe not use it at all, and they will leave quickly. That said, I think you should, so I think focusing on clear navigation, few buttons, big buttons, things like that is the way to go. A couple examples of things that I think have pretty good usability. This is a timeline tool that I built that is now used throughout the New York Times. This is a timeline of Barack Obama. And when I first built this, right, the first several iterations of this timeline, these two buttons were not here. These two buttons were not there, and I was like having people, these had little bigger hit states or whatever, but I figured people would want to, you know, like guide themselves by these. This was like one of the big revelations for me on usability when I first got to the Times. I found that awkward, right? I was like, this is painful. This is not like, I can't see one of my parents or my dad like sitting here and clicking and trying to do these things. Like, I can't see that happening. So I threw these two buttons up here, and I will tell you what, 100% of people navigate timelines using these two buttons. Nobody is down here clicking on these lines. Like, they're just not doing it. And so when I added these two buttons, it was like an eye-opening experience that I saw, oh, well, holy smokes, you know, like put two big buttons up at the top, and all of a sudden people are just going to use these. And the point of it, right, the reason why that's so great is that they're going to go through all of the content because I put those two buttons up there. Instead of getting frustrated and being like, God, you know, I don't want to click on the next line. I don't want to do the next thing. It's super easy because I don't want them to think about the usability. I don't want them to have to be like, oh, how do I use this? Or, oh, gosh, I have to find the next line or whatever. I want them to think about what was Barack Obama doing in 1999? What was Barack Obama doing in 2007? Like, the usability should be transparent. It's not important that they know how to use it. It's the producer's job, it's our responsibility, producers, designers, whatever you want to call it, to get out of the way of the content. If your usability or your interactive is in some way obfuscating the content or causing people frustration, then you are not doing your job well. Like, you need to get out of the way of the content because I'll tell you what, as much as you might hope, the user is not there to click on your buttons. The user is not there to try to figure out how your interface works. Now, that's not to say that your interface can't be cool and it can't do neat things. I'll hopefully show you examples of that kind of stuff later. But it is to say that if a user is going to get frustrated or not understand how your things works, you fail, and you also have failed the people who create that content for you, whether they're your photographers, your writers, your videographers, whoever they are. When you're producing people's projects, you have an inherent responsibility to those people to present their stuff in the best way possible. So get out of the way of it. Another example, which I think is one of the best ones, is this project I worked on with Amy O'Leary and David Barstow. Really incredible project. David won a Pulitzer Prize for it in April. Just a true pleasure to be able to work with him on such an important story. It's called, what is it called? How the Pentagon Spread Its Message. It's about these generals who, well, I'll let it speak for itself, right? But what I would like you to pay a little attention to as I reload the page is how much it takes to get into the story.
It would be called the Generals' Revolt.
So,
a striking display of dissent in the spring of 2006 when several retired generals began publicly, and for the first time, criticizing Donald Rumsfeld for his handling of the Iraq War.
Should someone resign?
Absolutely.
Who?
Secretary of Defense to begin with.
The best solution is for the Secretary to step down and we get fresh blood in the Pentagon.
Look, I need to pause.
There was no...
Where's the pause button? You know, like, it's so big it could jump out and, like, smack you in the face. Like, there's 4 buttons on this project. So, as you can, 5, I suppose. A play button and then these 3 other things. But that's because the point of this project is not to learn how to use my interface. The point of this project is to tell you this incredibly interesting story about these generals who echoed talking points given to them by Donald Rumsfeld and the Pentagon, and how like outrageous this was, and how like you should just be listening and seeing, and we take on this thing and we highlight documents, and if you want to, you can view the document, but here you see return to audio is right under your thing, because we really want to just drive you into the content. We really just want to drive you into the story. If you end up at this page and without clicking a button will sit there for 10 minutes and listen as David Barstow tells you that story, I feel great. I've done my job. I've gotten out of the way of the content, and hopefully you've picked up something from it.